why should they invest when the whole economy is not giving them any signals of growth? If I am an investor, I will invest when I know the demand is growing. If I know the demand is not there for the motorcycle or the cycle that I am producing, why should I invest more? So this is what James said. The investment decision is a separate decision. It's not based on your savings only. Because if I have bond, everything, then I will invest because there's an opportunity for me to invest and grow. I would say that the rural wages would have gone up faster to this minimum recommended wage if we had cared for our rural employment program in a more serious way. What do we give now? At the moment we give 181 rupees on an average. This is from the NREG accounts. For the NREG work you perform. How many days of work you get? 50 days. Out of 365 days every year. How much you spend? 60 to 70,000 crores. So the wage gap for that workers, if you decide to pay them the recommended minimum wage, that would have added another 74,000 crores to the NREG workers at the current rate of 50 days. But I say that that is not the promise. The promise is 100 days. So if you were to give the current level of employment, sorry, if 100 days are provided at rupees 375 a day, for the existing number of people who are demanding work, 80 million workers in rural areas are demanding NREG work. That itself is not a natural demand because officials say that we can only give that much. That would be 2,88,750 crores as income to the rural laboring households, which would be 1.7% of national income. Add this 1.7% to 14.8%, which I talked about the potential loss of wage income in the labour market. It becomes 16.5% of GDP equivalent. And that would have generated 28,20,676 crores income to the Indian economy through employment generation. More than 80% of this would have gone to the rural economy. This would have enhanced the aggregate demand of the Aam Aadmi in general and the working poor in particular. A greater part of the benefit of national minimum wage will largely go to the women in rural areas. Now, when I talk about women, I must say that despite young women increasing their years of education, because they are in expectation of employment, both in rural and urban areas, school enrollments have gone up, average education has gone up, higher education enrollment has gone up, you get an inverse relation with employment. Women constituted 32% of the total workers in 11-12, just recently. Now it is 23%. So almost a 10 percentage point reduction. That's what we are now talking about. If you take women as a group, for every 100 women, adult women, only 24 women are in the labour market. 76 are outside. That's the ratio. Labour market, what we call labour participation rate, that is including unemployment. If you take out the people who are unemployed, workforce participation, it would be around 18 or 19. That means not even 1/5 of our adult women, we are able to utilize their potential for national economic development, which will also give them a life of dignity, especially in rural areas, and would have also reduced the inflow of poor labour from rural to urban areas, the push factor. Pull factor is when I have adequate education, PhD, MA, MPhil, then I go to a city because I am seeking opportunity. But in my village, the poor laborer goes to the city because he has nothing there to look forward to. So these are two different types of migrations that we need to keep in mind. So this kind of our inability to generate employment, in my view, has cost women much more than men. In fact, if you take, just imagine this country is only consisting of men. Then there is this kind of crisis, the crisis of a different order, because most men are at work. Some of them are unemployed. 94% of them are in the labor market, either in the labor market or in education, but not for women. Within that, the rural, which means the informally employed and the women, have a disproportionate adverse impact of lack of employment than the men in this country. And for me, that is the gender bias. There are other manifestations, but that's not the fundamental form. Along with a policy to help small farmers, that's a different thing. Now, a policy on national minimum wage, I strongly feel, can be a powerful tool for social and gender inclusion that would also reduce poverty among the working poor. All depends on the political economy and the ideological predilections of the regime in power. This is where the politics gets married to economics. And if this politics, yeah. So it is this politics that determines the economics also. Refusal to adopt a subsistence-based national minimum as a floor wage has resulted in a long tail of wage inequality. I would therefore say that the wage inequality is a policy-induced one, not something to be taken as God given. I will not take even 5 minutes, but make a concluding remark. The growing disconnect between growth and employment, resulting in sharpening dualism as between formal and informal. Informal means micro and small units, high incidence among rural, women, lower income, less educated, and socially more disadvantaged, who account for 79% of employment. This entrenched existential crisis, this is an existential crisis for a large part of our population. In the economic sphere, this is an existential crisis in the economic sphere, is getting overshadowed by another all-embracing existential crisis of a political nature, which is now being contested, that's our citizenship. Because if you are not a citizen, you can't even hope for a work. So if you don't belong here, then you can't hope for work here. So we are caught between two existential crises. What future? First of all, aren't the workers citizens? Or the other way around, citizens who should be workers? Don't they have right to work? So if it is just not a citizenship, struggle for citizenship is basic. But that citizenship should also come along with few other basic rights. And the right to work is one. And right to secure work, not in the 90% informal work. And the right to at least a minimum wage, that means you should not be a working poor. You should be able to work to come out of poverty. And right to work with dignity. This is what ILO says about decent work. I don't go into it, but if you look at those parameters, we will be a power. The percentage of workers in the Indian economy who have some social security provided through employment, like we get bonus, holidays, employment, is around 19%, if you stretch it. Yes, because any one security. Yes, not all. There are employment security, social. So any one of these, it's about 19%. So that's the kind of future of our workers. And in this, while I greatly appreciate the problems that are being faced by the formal sector in the urban, rural, urban regular economy, in what's going on in the world of technology, artificial intelligence, and how work organization is undergoing fundamental changes. And I must say, in the Indian growth story, the only segment which is doing reasonably well is the urban regular economy. And there the difference between men and women in terms of wages and conditions of work is minimal. As you go down, it's not only there is the gender gap, but there is also rural-urban gap, and there is also now, there's no scope for gap because you have no work. If you are only a worker, then I can compare with you, and I compare my age gap with you. Which I don't have. Some of it we did articulate. It's not that these are new. When we were in the National Commission for Enterprises in the Unorganized Sector, we gave several reports, and two important reports in which we talked about the need for holding hands of the informal sector to level them up. We need a leveling up policy, not a leveling down policy. That was articulated first in terms of problems in the first report, and the challenges of employment in terms of how important it is to care for the small establishments and enterprises and the workers in it in the second. And some of the problems, the inequality, I dealt with